Okay. So good morning and welcome to the LRS virtual conference this year. This year we've obviously had to run it in a slightly different format, but we're very pleased to be hosting 14 virtual and pre-recorded workshops throughout the month of November. The title of our conference is Building Resilience Together, Supporting Mental Wellness, Utilising Sport and Physical Activity. We feel that it's important at this time to support the communities of Leicestershire, Leicester and Rutland to look after their well-being. And we feel that physical activity and sport can play a huge part in helping them to do so. During the current pandemic, the importance of physical activity to support people's well-being has been reiterated by government, with all of us being encouraged where possible to ensure we continue to lead active lives. In addition, there's lots of national evidence that physical activity and sport can have a positive impact on people's mental wellness. Exercise is often described as a wonder drug in preventing and managing mental health. We want to utilise this conference to raise the awareness of physical activity, sport, and the links to mental wellness to encourage our networks to champion this agenda. It's an important opportunity for you to build your networks as well as sharing your expertise and experience with each other. Today's session is going to focus on arthritis, and I'm delighted to welcome today's first speaker, Rhian, to take you through the first few slides. So it's over to you, Rhian.
Thank you, Andrew. So I'm Rhian Horlock, the Strategic Programme Manager for Physical Activity at Versus Arthritis. And I've been in post over a year now, supporting the strategic direction of the charity around physical activity. My background is in behaviour change support. I've worked on national programmes supporting people with long-term health conditions to move more at a level that's right for them. I'm delighted to be asked to speak today at the LRS annual conference to show how we're building resilience together. And just a bit of background about Versus Arthritis. We're the largest UK charity supporting people with arthritis. We launched in September 2018. And in 2017, arthritis care and arthritis research joined together to do more to help people with arthritis to live full and active lives. Together, we will do more to build resilience. We'll change attitudes towards arthritis. We'll provide more and better support, training and resources, and also better research and treatments. And we'll strengthen our collective voice for change and work collaboratively, locally and nationally. So if we look on the next slide for today's agenda. So today we're going to show you how we're supporting mental wellness, how we're supporting people with musculoskeletal conditions on their physical activity journey. We'll be joined by Dr. Chris Ellis, one of our Versus Arthritis core skills trainers. We'll also be joined by Jenny Miller, who's our Living Well with Arthritis Service Coordinator for the East Midlands. And we'll also hear from Tom Ludden, one of our volunteers from Leicester, about his journey. We'll talk about the importance of physical activity for people with MSK conditions. You'll hear about the resources that we have and the training, our public health approach. You'll hear about our programmes and our national programme funded by Sport England called Let's Move. Throughout each section, after each speaker, there will be a Q&A, and there'll also be an opportunity to move throughout each session. So without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Dr. Chris Ellis, who's going to set the scene for us. So on the next slide, over to you, Chris.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning to everyone on this glorious Leicestershire morning. I actually live in Leicestershire, but I actually work across the boundary in Northamptonshire. So I'm Dr. Chris Ellis. I've been a GP in the place where I work for the last 20 years. I'm a GP trainer, and I've been working for Versus Arthritis in its current format for the last 5 to 6 years. This is a picture of me before the COVID haircut, trying to teach a young doctor about how to examine. This was on Twitter at the time. I have one conflict of interest. Everyone needs to be aware that when I do sessions for Versus Arthritis, I do get a payment for that time. Next slide, please. Okay. If anyone in the room has arthritis, they will be fully aware of what that means for them. For those who don't, approximately 8 out of 10 people will have arthritis. experiencing pain most days, and it is a nuisance for well over 50%. At least 10 million people are affected in the UK. And if you look at some of the Lancet work on global burden of illness, MSK problems falls second behind mental health on a global footprint. Next slide, please. Okay. What is life like in primary care? Well, this slide was actually originally done prior to April 2020. So you can appreciate things have slightly changed since then. But in general, it is busy. Lots of MSK related presentations, and the vast majority of primary care clinicians have absolute minimal training at all in how to examine and manage this. 10-minute consultations are nowhere near enough. I'm assuming that everyone has seen their GP prior to April, and 10 minutes goes very quickly. Now, although we're moving, I would like to pause the presentation at this point and actually get you all to move. Now, I can only see a few people on the screen, so we'll do our best. I would like everyone to turn their head to their right, back to the middle, and turn your head to your left. Back to the middle, look towards the ceiling, back to the middle, look down towards the floor, back to the middle. Okay, you've done some movement. Fantastic. This is the idea. Everyone needs to do simple movement. As an aside, I would also be very interested in Q&A if anyone else is currently standing. I am currently standing doing this presentation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, just prior to this being started, this is a video made by Versus Arthritis about what the training we do for healthcare professionals. I'm not on this for two reasons. One, that it was done in a location I wasn't there, and two, I have a face for radio. Okay, so on the basis of that, can we play the video?
There's often been quite limited training and education in MSK. There's lots of secondary care teaching out there that we can do, but it doesn't really often apply to the sorts of things that we see really. So today is very much a hope that we're going to teach you skills and techniques that actually you'll be able to use in the real world.
We'll be presenting some information in large group formats, and then the key feature is that we then break into smaller groups and the delegates get a chance to look at individual areas in depth and also to practice the skills in real time. So it's a real hands-on experience.
Coming to workshops like this really help us refresh the skills that we learned early on, and sometimes also help us hone those skills, make them kind of more focused and more powerful so we can give the best to our patients.
It's been a really rounded package of information, practical advice, and resources that I can take back into my clinical work. But also it does offer 12 credits that are matched up together for your CPD learning, which is a great addition to any single year's appraisal, and all of the resources it also leads into, so that you can add them to your clinical repertoire once you're back in practice.
All the trainers here who felt their experience in musculoskeletal have learnt an awful lot. We've all changed our practice, in fact simplified our practice. So I'd encourage everybody to think, come here, it will change your practice to help your patients.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so that video is clearly on the Versus Arthritis website. I appreciate there may have been some slight issues with the speed of how that ran through. This is purely what happened for me last summer in Leeds. That's what we did. So a whole morning, how to take a history, talking about osteoarthritis, how to examine the back, upper limb, lower limb, and needless to say, there was movement involved within that presentation day. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I'm now changing tack slightly just to talk a little bit about osteoarthritis. Extremely common. This is a graphic from the NICE guidance about the management primary care should be doing. And I think we need to emphasize completely on the red blobs in the middle, which are related to education and advice. movement, which is the bottom left one, and weight loss if appropriate. There are a lot of things which we don't recommend based on the current evidence out there. Next slide, please. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the blobs. So if you start in the top left-hand corner with pain, you are likely to reduce your activity. You then become stiff. You then become tired. You become weak, and you start spinning. Everyone can appreciate how that feels. I'm sure everyone has felt that person, if not one of their family members. Next slide, please. If you increase your activity, you will increase your fitness, your flexibility, and as a result of that, you will have more energy, more strength, less pain. You will therefore do more movement, more flexibility, and you will start to do the vicious circle the correct way round. Next slide, please. Now, this is one of the information leaflets which you can download directly from the Versus Arthritis. This was the colouring was based on the original Arthritis Research UK colouring, which was very orange. Some of the more up-to-date ones have changed. So for those people who can, if you look at the let's say the fourth picture along, which is approximately in the middle, you have people with their arms folded. Can I suggest people fold their arms? And be cautious if any of you got headphones tied into your laptops or anything like that, or small children by your feet, or dogs or things like that. Can I ask you to stand up? Fantastic. The people on the view, yeah, okay, we've not lost any people on the 4 people I can see. And now sit down again. Fantastic. Okay, so I will ask a challenge to the audience. How many times on a Zoom call, Teams call, or your working life with a computer do you actually do that movement? I would suggest a lot of you are probably not doing an awful lot. Next slide, please. This is a further one related to shoulder problems. I would like you to concentrate predominantly on the bottom left-hand corner. So everyone who uses a laptop usually use it in an incorrect way and their shoulders are rounded forward. So can I again, everyone do the shoulder stretch, which is highlighted in the bottom left-hand corner. So just roll your shoulders backwards. You might hear some clicks. Don't worry about that. Okay, and keep doing that. And another one. This is the first time ever you've done a Zoom physiotherapy, haven't you? Absolutely great. Okay. Okay, fantastic. And we'll then pause at that point. As you can see, these are very easy to understand, freely available from the website. Next slide, please. Now, this is hot off the press. The WHO today have released this information. This supersedes what was done 10 years ago. It is apparently going to be formally launched on Eastern time, whenever that is in the world. But essentially, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you need to move more. Okay, this will include just standing, walking, spending less time sitting. The more you move, the better. Okay, you have started to do what the WHO has suggested from this morning. I note that I've just copied and pasted some of the adult information, and it actively mentions from the WHO the active effects on anxiety and depression and cognitive health. I recall over the last 6 months or so that everyone's mental health has deteriorated due to the restrictions being placed on ourselves. So we all need to move more. Next slide, please.
Can I just chip in there, Chris? I do believe that later today there is a webinar taking place hosted by the World Health Organization. I think it's at 4 p.m. this afternoon which I imagine is all about officially launching this new piece of research. I imagine if people just Google World Health Organization physical activity sedentary behavior, something will pop up, and I believe it's also free to watch. So sorry to
No.
I just wanted to make people aware that there is something that, considering the type of people that might be listening today with a remit for physical activity, it might be worthwhile me just raising that.
Literally, this was added to the slide deck today based on the thing. So you are now as most up to date, more than I would say the majority of the population of the world. Well done. Okay, thank you. That's the end of my short presentation.
Fantastic, thank you, Chris. So we now have a Q&A session for Chris. Does anyone well, Andrew first, coming to you in the chat. Is there any questions popped up in the chat for Chris?
So there are no official questions in the chat function. So if anyone does have anything at this stage, you can either pop it in there, or if you want to ask a question, perhaps just unmute your mic and just ask verbally. Nothing coming through in the actual chat at the moment. Please do submit questions as we're going through this. Oh, there we go. One just popped in. Bear with me. So we've had a message here to say, please can you share the knee exercises again?
Okay, so shall we go back a few slides? That might be the simplest way.
Yeah. Let's do that. I presume that's the slide.
That's the one. Yeah, this is a very classical one we've had. So obviously I've gone for the most ambulatory one we can do in a, shall we say, Zoom call. I'm not entirely sure if anyone's willing to do a Zoom call whilst going up a flight of stairs, in a manner of speaking. So this is all freely available on the website. You can actually do a lot of these sitting. So if you look at the third person along who is sitting, who appears to have one foot under the other, a simpler version of that is in a sitting position. And dare I say, let's everyone do this now. Okay, so let's do your right leg first. So keep your right heel on the floor, bend your right knee to 90 degrees. Okay, now lift your right knee towards the ceiling, so your right heel goes off the floor for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and put it down. We'll do the same for the left. So the left heel on the floor, left knee bent at 90 degrees. You lift your left knee towards the ceiling, so your left heel comes off the floor for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. It is easy to do. You can do this while watching Coronation Street. I usually tell my patients, during as an advert, you just keep doing it. I have got some patients telling me that they fast forward the adverts as they try and get out of jail free card, but I'm afraid no, you still have to do the exercises even with technology.
Fantastic, thank you. Is there any other questions before we move on?
Nothing further in the chat box. If people just want to keep chucking things in there as we're going through, we can obviously then pick up those at the points in the session today where we have got space for a Q&A. So it's probably best now that we move on. Is that okay with you, Rhian?
Yeah, brilliant. So if you skip to the professional engagement slide, so I think it's 3 along. Brilliant there, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for that, and also for the hot off the press information as well, which is fantastic. And as Chris mentioned, all of our resources are available on our website. You can see the web link on the slide there in front of you. We also have fact sheets for other body parts such as back pain, shoulder pain. You've seen the knee pain version, so do check out our website. And within Versus Arthritis, we have a professional engagement team. We have reached into over 8,000 healthcare professionals in our network who get our network news update. And over 15,000 healthcare professionals have accessed our resources, such as our fact sheets and information, since March 2020. We've launched webinars for healthcare professionals, as well as podcasts, and you've heard about the core skills training today. On the next slide, We're taking a public health approach to MSK conditions at Versus Arthritis. So we're promoting lifelong MSK health. And there's a huge amount of evidence now that everyone at every age can do something to improve and maintain the health of their bones and joints. We're promoting physical activity through our policy team and have a number of policy reports, manifestos and calls to action on our website. We're also lobbying local government at the moment about the safe return to leisure facilities for people who are clinically extremely vulnerable. On the next slide, you'll see that we've developed infographics and animations around the Chief Medical Officer's guidelines. And it was great to see that last year there was a review of the guidelines, making strength and balance more of a centre focus, and the importance of building in joint strength and stability first at 2 days a week. And it includes movements such as carrying heavy shopping bags, building in those everyday moves, reducing sedentary behaviour. And we're creating videos to go alongside these animations of how people can incorporate movement into their everyday lives. We've built an activity hub on our website where these resources are available. On the next slide, you'll see our tiered approach to physical activity. And we know that people's needs vary over time, depending on the severity of their MSK condition. We know that people have different comorbidities. They might have different preferences. Some might prefer group activities, some might prefer individual activities, some might prefer just going to their local park. We know that people's motivation levels differ. So we've developed this tiered approach, which is underpinned by behaviour change support, so that people can find the appropriate activity that's right for them. And within our tiered approach, so level 1 is about self-directed accessible facilities. Tier 2, can I just check everyone's on mute? I'm getting a strange buzzing noise. Tier 2 is about supervised physical activity, including support groups, walking groups, and you'll hear about some of those groups that we're delivering shortly from Jenny. Tier 3 is about structured rehabilitation programs, and we've got examples of that where we've supported the Health Innovation Network to roll out Escape Pain. And Tier 4 is about support one-to-one with a physiotherapist, but we know not everyone needs that hands-on level 4, Tier 4 support. And we know people will move across these tiers, and some people will just remain in one tier. So we can't provide hands-on treatment for all, but luckily not everyone needs it. And that's where the power of initiatives like social prescribing come in, that we're linking with the link workers so that they can support people to find an activity that's right for them. So on the next slide, we have a Living Well with Arthritis programme UK-wide, and we've developed support groups to help people. So they're ever growing, so there's over 75 support groups in England, over 250 volunteers, and a variety of activity groups ranging from bocce, tai chi, talks and workshops. And Jenny's going to tell us all about that on the next slide. So I'm going to hand you over to Jenny Miller, who's our Living Well with Arthritis coordinator. Over to you, Jenny. Oh, Jenny, we're struggling to hear you, I'm afraid, and there's a strange buzzing noise. I don't know if it's your microphone.
Oh, is that better?
That's much better, yes.
Okay, I won't use my headset. So I am the East Midlands Living Well with Arthritis Service Coordinator. Slide, please. And I cover the East. Next slide. Thank you. So, and the next one. So I cover the East Midlands, and we are a service run by volunteers who we recruit and train, and they provide services in branches and groups, local branch groups all over well, all over the UK, but certainly in lots of areas in the East Midlands at the moment. And it says our aim is to empower people to manage their arthritis. And it's all about peer support and helping each other. And we have many different topics and areas that the groups cover. They do fundraising. And we also recruit and train what we call service volunteers. And the service volunteers are people that they may be in the group, but they also will do things for themselves out and about, giving talks, all sorts of activities outside a group. Next slide, please. So this is our Living Well with Arthritis wheel. So at the top, we've got the peer support groups, currently online, unfortunately, but in the great scheme of things, they're all face-to-face. They're based in many different locations. We've got them in GP practices. We've got them in church halls. We've got them in health centres. We've got them in sports centres all over. We also have information stands. Those are run by the service volunteers. Those could be in hospitals, at events, in shopping centres, wherever, and they're run by the volunteers. We have, as Rhian has mentioned, a lot of information that's on our website, but we have leaflets for every aspect to do with arthritis. We also have a lot of physical activity that the groups are involved with, including Tai Chi and walking, hydrotherapy. And we are looking at developing services in the future around self-management and around local campaigning. We have a number of volunteers who are already very involved with local campaigning and networking in their local area with other charities and groups. Next slide. Next slide, please. The physical activity, we have a number of Tai Chi groups in East Midlands, including a very active one in Nottingham that is currently online, which I will mention in the next slide. We also have a lot of, around the country, we have a lot of the volunteers and the people that come to the branches and groups doing swimming. Some of them do hydrotherapy, where there is that, where they can actually access hydrotherapy. And certainly in the East Midlands, we have a large that do aqua classes in the local leisure centre. We also have people doing something called walking football. And I think you can see the slide to the right of me. That's one of our members of one of our groups, again in Nottingham, doing walking football. And he's actually part of the We Are Undefeatable campaign. We also do, as Rhian mentioned, boccia. And we also have a number of walking groups, and we are developing new groups starting at the beginning of next year, as we feel that apart from the fact that walking is a fantastic activity, it is something that in the world we find ourselves in that we might actually be able to do before the groups meet up indoors. Okay, thank you. Next group, next slide, please. So as I was saying, what we've been doing in lockdown, obviously been a very challenging time for us, but actually we've been, if anything, more busy. I currently have 11 branches in the East Midlands, soon to be 12, with 28 volunteers. So we have been very active. We have a very, as I mentioned, we have a very active online type class in Nottingham who've now gone online. And the woman that runs it, she runs it for Versus Arthritis, but also other charities are involved. And she has 2 classes a day, 5 days a week. I've actually gone on to one of her classes, which was amazing, absolutely incredible. Everyone chats beforehand, and then she does the class remotely, obviously, and we're all in, absolutely fantastic. We also have some online exercise classes, again, and another group who were based in the leisure centre, and obviously currently aren't, and the people that go to the aqua classes, the lady that runs the aqua classes has you can see from the picture on the slide, that's her doing exercises on her street, and she then sends the videos. She loads them up so people can access them and do exercises with her or in their own time. We have a number of groups that have WhatsApp groups to keep in touch with each other. Quite a lot of social networking, a lot of Facebook groups we have. And Versus Arthritis sends the volunteers a newsletter from us every month. So I send an East Midlands newsletter with all the updates to my volunteers, with all the links and everything for things that they could access. And a lot of the volunteers contact and talk to the people that visit their group, particularly the ones who are very isolated. And in some areas, we've developed a telephone tree where they escalate down and support each other by calling each other. Next slide, please. Right, and finally, services in Leicestershire. Up until recently, we haven't had any services in Leicestershire, but over the summer, we had a lot of interest. We had a national campaign. We had a lot of interest in new volunteers, and I have recruited a new volunteer for Leicestershire, which we're very excited about. His name's Tom, and he is hopefully, all being well, we're going to start the group in Leicester. Coming to you soon in the spring of 2021. But before we can actually find a location and meet face to face indoors, Tom is going to be doing some walk leader training early in the new year, so that we can develop a walking group in the Leicester area. So we're very excited about that, and we're hoping that anyone that's on this call can think of people that maybe they think would be interested. We also, when services return to normal, we will be developing a lot of physical activity in Leicester with Tai Chi and other activities, peer support, etc. And very much activities that the people that come to the branch or the group wish to have. So it may be aqua classes. If we can find hydrotherapy locally, we can access that. Social events happen, they go out for meals, maybe a couple of times a year, that kind of thing. So all this is in the pipeline to happen in Leicester shortly. So that's very exciting. And I'm hoping that my new volunteer, Tom, is on the call. Tom, are you on the call?
I don't think I can see a Tom in the participant list. Although I might.
Yes, I think he is. He is on the list.
Oh, is he? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. That's all right. That's all right.
Oh, are you there, Tom?
I'm here, yes. Yes.
Tom, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, that's fine. So good morning to you all. Still morning, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, good morning to you all. So around 12 years ago, I had quite a lot of pain in my ankle, and it was sort of the equivalent of a sprained ankle, particularly painful. No sort of reason for it. Went to the doctor, said we must have been a sprain. Over the next 6 to 12 months, I noticed that I was having similar pain in different joints. After a lot of testing and a lot of misdiagnosis, I was tested for a variety of things, but it turned out to be palindromic arthritis, which means it comes and goes and is fleeting in its performance, but in different joints. They're very difficult to participate in sport. I put my name down for a variety of things, but sometimes wouldn't be able to play. And it was all quite difficult. Driving, a day of driving would mean a day of pain the following day. So yeah, quite severe pain as well at times, and quite debilitating. Following on what Chris was saying, the cycle was always key. So a day of being unable to do sport would lead to a day of pain the following day. So lockdown has been tough for a variety of reasons, but in terms of health, lockdown has been quite enlightening in my battle with arthritis, in that the more exercise I can do when health allows, the better I feel. The more energy I have, the more energy I'll have the following day. So the more active I can be, it does help. The mental health side of the illness is quite key. My father suffers from arthritis as well, and the ability to converse and talk about whether today's a good day, whether today's a bad day, whether the day is a day to push when you've got arthritis, or whether it's a day to concede defeat and know that it's going to be a tough day is key. Jenny, Rhian and the team mentioned about there's an app for arthritis sufferers as well, which you can track your feeling and how you feel about the disease. All these things are key. And knowledge of what the charity can do, how the charity can support, and educating GPs, hospitals, it's all key to helping arthritis sufferers. So the more we can get people together and active, the more people understand what they can do and how they can fight it is the key.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Tom. Right, next slide. So that is my email for anyone that's interested in inquiries for the Leicester group. And I think we're going to take questions. Is that right, Rhian?
Yes. So has any come through on the chat, first of all?
Yeah, there are. Before I get to that, just a quick, well, I suppose more of a statement really for Jenny. I just realised as well that I didn't formally introduce myself when I introduced the session. So I'm Andrew Harris. I'm a Sport Development Officer at Leicestershire Rutland Sport, and I centrally coordinate the exercise referral and targeted programmes across Leicestershire. So I'd definitely be interested in having a bit of a follow-up with you, Jenny, about your new walk, because there are obviously some very, very close linkages here from people exiting consultations within primary settings, and also GP referrals and physiotherapists as well, I'm thinking of as well. And it would be great to kind of offer them a little bit more choice rather than maybe a more traditional referral pathway into a gym, which doesn't float everybody's boat, as I'm sure you're aware. And it may be that they would prefer mixing with like-minded individuals on a walk with people that are obviously suffering with the same condition, or living, I should say, with the same condition. So that's, I suppose, more of a statement to say that we would be interested in having a conversation with you after today's session, Jenny.
That sounds fantastic.
We had one question from Liz, and Liz says, would new age curling and walking rugby be appropriate activities?
Well, I would have thought walking rugby, new age curling. That's Rhian, you tell. That's one on me. I don't know what new age curling is.
Yeah, interestingly, our Scotland services have been approached by the national governing body there to do some taster sessions. So yeah, we're absolutely open to trying different activities to build our menu. We have a rugby ambassador, and we've just launched a film actually of her story, so that'll be coming out really soon. So we do know of people who have arthritis that play rugby, and yeah, new age curling is something we are exploring in our Scotland services, so watch this space.
Lovely.
Chris, I don't know if you want to chip in. Is there any evidence that you're aware of curling or rugby, or have you seen any patients that have had injuries in those sports? Oh, you're on mute, Chris. Oh, you're still on mute.
Hold on, let me unmute.
Oh.
No, he's still on mute.
Let's try that. Am I now loud and clear? Okay. I have no issues with rugby because it's a very good sport. Working in Northamptonshire, they seem to support a different team to Leicestershire, and I'll say no more than that in a manner of speaking. I can assume you can work out. I live in Leicestershire, so I'm slightly, shall we say, the black swan in the group, if you follow my drift. I have no problems with people doing walking rugby. Sounds good. It's probably going to be less injuries than a full contact blow by a prop forward.
Good stuff. Another question for the group. What are the access requirements to the groups in terms of screening? That was from Eleanor. Is that in relation to the walking groups, Eleanor, or is that wider kind of groups that you're referring to there?
All of them really, and the online activities also, please. So
there is, when you say screening, it's open to anybody with arthritis, basically. That's the only criteria. Online, currently in Leicester, there's nothing, because we're developing services in Leicestershire. There isn't access to online, but there is this online Tai Chi that anyone can access. I mean, if you're interested, I can send you the contact details of the woman that does it. It's not free. The first class is free, and then you pay, because she has made it available to various other charities, including Versus Arthritis. That's why she has 2 classes a day, because she's a very busy lady. But currently in Leicester, unless there's nothing kind of locally online. That's what's coming. That's what we're excited about for the new year. But as for access for the walking group, once Tom's done the training, there are 3 levels, and we'll probably concentrate mostly on the level 1, which is kind of, you know, flat and simple and, you know, appropriate for somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who walks with sticks, etc. So broad. So it's very open to everybody. We welcome everyone. But feel free to email me at the email address at the bottom.
Lovely. There's no further questions in the chat box. I've just got a very quick one, and I'm not sure whether anyone will have the answer to it, but do we have an idea of the extent to which residents in Leicestershire, well, Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland are living with arthritis? Is it above or below the national averages, for example? Just trying to get an idea of whether Leicestershire is typical in terms of a county, or is it higher or lower in terms of the number of people living with arthritis?
So there's a really useful tool called Public Health England Fingertips, where you can type in the Leicestershire data and look at really detailed information and inactivity levels, as well as MSK, OA stats. It's not something we've looked at, but it's something we can have a look at, unless Chris knows as a Leicestershire rep. No, but we can follow up with that to see if it's above or lower. But yeah, the really useful tool is the Fingertips tool from Public Health England, and they've just added some new strength and balance measures to that as well, linked to the Sport England Active Lives data with the new focus on strength and balance. So yeah, we'll get some really robust, and also details on young people as well.
That's great. Yeah, I think most of the people that are listening on the call will be very familiar with Fingertips. I know I've used it in the past. I didn't realize it could break it down to that kind of granular level, really, that looks at specific conditions, but great that they've added the additional bits and bobs in there. So we'll certainly be looking at that. I mean, it helps to some extent help us build a business case for the increase of provisions for populations that are maybe suffering or living with, I should say, with arthritis. So thanks for that.
No problem.
Okay.
Just one more thing.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, and just one more thing from us, just a call out. Jenny mentioned that we were looking for facilities. So if anyone on the call knows of a really great facility that would be great to host a support group in the future, please do let us know, because we'd be keen to link up there. So yeah, lots of collaboration.
And
Thank
if anyone's interested in volunteering as well, we're always looking for. Tom can't do everything, so we're looking for other volunteers. That would be great.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jenny. And thank you, Tom, as well, for not only volunteering, but for sharing your story as well. We look forward to getting you trained up as a walk leader.
You're welcome. Thanks, Rhian.
So now it's time to move again. So if we go across to the time to move slide. Now, you can do this standing or in your chair. What we want you to do is to write the alphabet in the air with your big toe and only moving your ankle. You can also be creative and write your name if you want to as well. And if you want to add your arm to it as well, you can have a little go with arms and legs, but not both of them together at the same time. So yeah, while you're listening to my next lot, you're welcome to keep doing that because we want to encourage you all to move more in line with the World Health Organization guidelines today. So on the next slide, I'm keen to talk about the insight that we've gathered at Versus Arthritis, and we're developing a program that enables people with arthritis to reclaim physical activity at a level that's right for them, supporting their physical and mental well-being. And we've been on a discovery journey at Versus Arthritis, and I'm going to share that with you. What you can see on your screen is the results of our survey, which was led by DJS Research. We've gathered a wealth of data, insight, practical experiences. We've enhanced our understanding through focus groups, through interviews, through design workshops, and through listening panel diaries. And what comes out across all of those different channels is that pain and fatigue is the barrier that is stopping people with arthritis from being active. Now, this insight also highlights the competing narratives that people with arthritis have. So at the bottom right of your screen, you'll see what those competing narratives are. Is physical activity going to damage my joints? Is it going to aggravate my joints? Is it going to zap my energy? And then we see others who think, is physical activity going to protect my joints? Yes. Is it going to improve my well-being, my mental health, my mood? Yes. Is it going to energize me? Yes. And if you look at the statements highlighted in the red box, you'll see that we have a huge amount of work to do in myth busting, but also in educating people, because some of the stats are saying people are not sure what to do. They're not sure that exercise is for people like them. They're concerned of making their health issues worse, and they're worried. And in our survey results, over a quarter of people told us that they had been told by their healthcare professional that being physically active would make their condition worse. And we're working very closely with Sport England and Public Health England on the Clinical Champions programme to educate healthcare professionals about the benefits of moving more. And there'll shortly be a consensus statement on risk coming out via Sport England and the Richmond Group of Charities. So if we go on to the next slide, we also found out about what would be the most positive benefits of doing physical activity. And what these stats show us that any effort to increase physical activity needs to focus on the wider benefits, not just those directly related to MSK conditions. So interestingly, weight management and improved mood scored above helping improve joint pain or arthritis. So we know when we're designing programs that we absolutely need to weave in not just practical, but emotional support. We saw that 7 in 10 people would like to be more active, but over half would find it difficult. And interestingly, this survey was done pre-pandemic, and over half of the people who responded to our survey would prefer to be active at home, encouraging us to develop a home-based physical activity offer. On the next slide, we saw an appetite for practical and emotional support, especially for people who are struggling. And we've developed personas across the charity. So some of you may be familiar with the Sport England segmentation work. So at Versus Arthritis, we've developed our own personas of the arthritis community. And for our current physical activity offer, we're focusing in on the defiant struggler persona. And you can see the stats there. They are interested in practical support, such as top tips around pain management. The pain management resources on our website have the most hits, the most downloads, but also that people are looking for that emotional support. And there's appetite for people to join support groups, but building their motivation to get them from their homes out the front door into a local activity. And that's what we're developing at the moment. On the next slide, you'll see we've created a video which showcases all of the insight that we've gathered. It talks about the barriers and motivators, the conflicting narrative, the conflicting messages that people with arthritis have had from their healthcare professionals. And that, just to sort of emphasize the lovely quote from Edmund there, he talks about the trick is with physical activity, make it a regular habit, make it part of your daily life, just like cleaning your teeth or brushing your hair. So a lot of the videos we'll be producing will be showing how to do that while you're waiting for the kettle to boil, while you're watching the TV adverts, while you're brushing your teeth. What everyday moves can you do to incorporate into your daily routine? And the link to that video is below if anyone wants to watch it. On the next slide, I mentioned earlier that we're working very closely with the Richmond Group, and that's a group of the leading health charities all coming together to unify their messages around physical activity. And we've seen the insight from the Richmond Group and Sport England during the pandemic that there is increased anxiety and low motivation at the moment. People are fearful, people are wary, and people need reassurance about safety, especially as the pools and the community centres, the facilities, the gyms are reopening. People are feeling overwhelmed by the ever-changing rules, the lack of trust, and also they're terrified of going to their local facility, and with the changing rooms being closed, for example, with the swimming pool lanes set up changing, some people rely on holding on to the swimming pool walls, but the lane setup is now all changed because of COVID. And also the myths are circulating, and we've seen this from our online community. There's lots of comments of people saying, oh, swimming pool droplets spread COVID, so I'm not going anywhere near a pool. But then on the flip side, we see some of our community saying, I can't wait to get back in the pool. I'm desperate for my local facility to open back up. I can't wait to return to normality, to my support group. We're seeing a change in behaviours and change in patterns of people's movement routines. Some people with arthritis have turned to outdoor exercise. We've heard about walking today. We've seen a massive boost in walking during the pandemic, and people going walking at early hours to avoid crowds. So lots of early morning walks, and many people turn into outdoor swimming in lakes, or if they live by the sea, because their pools are closed. We hear so much about the benefits of the water. The revealing reality insight that we gathered showed that 47% of people with MSK conditions are far less physically active than before lockdown. And as lockdown eased, over 55% of people with long-term health conditions are worried leaving their home to exercise. So what are we doing about that? So on the next slide, I'm going to talk to you about the We Are Undefeatable campaign, which I'm sure many of you have seen and engaged with. But we've been sharing the assets of the Undefeatable campaign, sharing the videos, the YouTube playlists. We've posted out the at-home booklets via the Living Well coordinators, which has stretching, leaflets and goal-setting charts. We've promoted the We Are Undefeatable chatbot. Jenny mentioned earlier the walk-in football. Some of our volunteers have attended the virtual walk-in football sessions led by Undefeatable. And also some have attended the dance sessions as well. We've been sharing the Insta Lives. We've also been sharing the new case studies of people with arthritis and promoting the adverts and radio adverts, and also the 5 in 5 moves. So a huge amount of assets that we've tapped into via the We Are Undefeatable campaign. On the next slide, it's now time to move again, because I recognize I've done a lot of talking. So on this one, we want you to sit back in your chair with a straight back. We want you to straighten and raise one of your legs and hold for a slow count to 10, then slowly lower your leg. Repeat 10 times with each leg. So I'm just going to pause and have a drink while you do that. Chris, do you want to tell us what the benefits of this move is while people are doing that?
Well, actually, I'm trying to do it standing as well. So that's I'm doing even more than you are. Okay, so the benefits of this one, this is going to build up your quadriceps or thigh muscle, shaded in yellow approximately on the picture. This is the main physiotherapy for osteoarthritis of the knee. You need a strong muscle to be able to get out of a chair. That's probably the main thing. It will also, because it's different to the exercise I was teaching, it means that your knee will move by straightening your leg, and therefore that will improve the flexibility of that joint and reduce something technical called gelling, where the joint stiffens up.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chris. So feel free to continue doing that move while I continue. So on the next slide, I'm really excited to tell you about our Sport England funded programme called Let's Move. And if we go to the next slide. So phase 1 has been all about responding to the urgent needs of the pandemic. And we've been developing a varied suite of digital interventions across multiple channels, including our website, but also we've been looking at podcasts, social media, our Ava chatbot, and our online community. We've had an expert advisory group helping to check and challenge our approach. And we're building in behaviour change techniques, including enablement and empowerment, and building in that credible source. So our web content has been repurposed. We've reviewed the current content and structure, and we've also reviewed the web analytics and improved the customer journey on our website for easier to access information so that people are able to get the support they need online. And we also have a channel for our undefeatable assets, as well as exercises to manage pain and our Let's Move assets. So on the next slide, we've shared top tips and blogs, and we do at least 2 on a monthly basis around physical activity, including top tips, myth-busting information, weaving in that practical and emotional support that people are asking for, showcasing what activities people can do at home, and sharing personal stories. Our personal stories get the most views across our social channels. On the next slide, we've been creative with our Instagram account. We've developed swipe through graphics, polls, top tips, creative posts, animations, and we have a Let's Move GIF that people can use on their Insta stories to show how they're getting active at home. We've shared blogs and videos via our Instagram as well, and we're noticing they're getting the most saves, so people are going back to our videos, our stretch videos to do again. On the next slide, you'll see we're working very closely with our research centre. So we have a Centre for Sport, Exercise and Osteoarthritis Research, and they're helping to review the videos that we create. We're sharing blogs on the exciting research that's happening at the moment. For example, there is a muscle toning space project focusing in on deconditioning at the moment, and we know that many people are deconditioned since lockdown. So Maria Stokes, one of our experts, we're looking to do a live session with that research and share what's happening around with the astronauts in space, because they're in a small confined space. So yeah, we're really excited to share that. But also there's some interesting studies around behaviour change and maintenance. If people are using apps, wearables, how can we maintain their behaviour long term? So exciting work going on with the research centre. On the next slide, we're also launching live sessions on Facebook. So we've done live Q&As with healthcare professionals and people with arthritis. Across the nations, you've heard from Jenny about the virtual Zooms, the virtual Teams. In Scotland, there's an example there of the virtual Tai Chi session. And we're setting up a YouTube channel where we're going to do a bit of a YouTube takeover with our live sessions, as well as scheduling much more Ask the Expert sessions, because we know people with arthritis have many questions for their healthcare professional. On the next slide, we're sharing user-generated videos of how people are getting active at home. And we're sharing these with our online community, and we'll continue to do so across multiple channels. For example, when we shared the Tai Chi video of Fiona's story. That resulted in increased calls to our helpline team and an onward referral to our Scotland Living Well service. So an unintended outcome from our digital offering, we're seeing an increase in referrals to our face-to-face services. We shared one of our MSK champions, Ben, doing a housework routine, including Hoover lunges. And we'll continue to collate case studies as we go through the Let's Move programme. On the next slide, it's now time to move again. So this one is a finger stretch. So if we can all get our fingers out, start with the fingers extended straight out, make a hook fist, return to a straight hand, make a full fist, return to a straight hand, make a straight fist, return to a straight hand. Chris, I'm going to come to you to ask, why is it important that we stretch our fingers?
If you don't stretch your fingers, you won't be able to type on your keyboards. For starters, you have to use them. Your thumb is the most important part. Thumb and index finger separates us from our ability to use those old-fashioned things called pencils, things of that nature. We need it for all our day-to-day. If you have weakness and stiffness of your hands, getting a kettle full of water becomes an issue. Drinking your cup of tea becomes an issue. It is absolutely essential.
Opening jars as well. Yeah. So definitely keep stretching your fingers, especially as we're all working from home while you're in meetings. A good tip there. So on the next slide, we're going to hear about what we've been doing in phase 2 of Let's Move. And we've pulled this together really quickly during the pandemic. We've developed an email journey, which includes email-based videos, case studies, peer support. We've developed an activity tracker for people to log their goals, track their progress, and we've launched the 12-week program called Let's Move with Leon, which is 30-minute videos in your inbox. And Leon is a level 4 instructor, and he talks people through the holistic approach to physical activity, building in cardiovascular fitness, strength and flexibility. He talks about breathing techniques. If we go to the next slide, you'll see Leon and his mum. So Leon's mum has arthritis, and we've built it in as a character piece because within our insight, people were asking for humour built into the sessions. So Leon has a really lovely relationship with his mum, and Janet goes through the 12-week programme, and at the end there's a lovely celebration where they talk about the benefits that Janet has felt going through the programme. People will get a virtual medal at the end, and we've linked it to our online community for peer support. And what we're seeing at the moment is people are saying, oh, I'm on week 1, I'm on week 4, I'm really enjoying the session. So we're seeing people encourage each other to do the videos, and we've built in messaging and frequently asked questions for this program. So it's going really well, and so far we've seen 7,000 people sign up since it's been launched. We have quite big targets for this program, and it's going to go all the way up until March, so you can sign up at any time from now up until March, and you'll get the journey every week in your inbox. On the next slide. These are our animations. I mentioned earlier that we've built an activity hub. We've developed an animation on the government guidelines. We've developed an animation with hints and tips for getting started with everyday moves. And we're also developing an animation at the moment about what happens in your body when you move. So animations will be something we'll be continuously putting out based on the insight that we've gathered. On the next slide, you'll see the YouTube channel that we've launched. So I mentioned the We Are Undefeatable YouTube channel earlier, which we are promoting, but also we have the Let's Move YouTube channel where all of our videos that we've created will be located, and we've got a huge amount more under development that will be added in the new year. So do check out our YouTube channel and our live sessions. On the next slide, you'll see our online community. So we've hot off the press launched a new Facebook group called Let's Move versus Arthritis, and there's over 300 people joined that group so far. And we're going to be doing weekly live sessions within that group. We've onboarded a number of instructors across different activities who'll be doing taster sessions, Q&As, Next week, there's a Q&A with Leon and his mum. We've also got a group with our fundraising team. There's a steps challenge. The October steps challenge has just come to an end, but we're seeing people promote the Let's Move journey through that online community. And we also have our own online community channel through the website where we're seeing organic discussions around physical activity. So yeah, lots of peer support happening online, which is fantastic to see. And lots of thank you posts for Leon and his mum of people who are enjoying the journey. On the next slide, we're signposting into other programs as well. So obviously we're developing our own, but we recognise there's fantastic programs being developed by our partners. For example, we shared Devon's Active Partnership podcast with Lily, who's one of our volunteers, and she launched a podcast on dancing around your living room, and that's a lovely listen. We featured a blog on Lily as well as a Q&A. We shared one of our MSK Champions apps, Ben, who's developed the Good Boost program, which is a program based in swimming pools. You get a tablet with a personalized program, but because all the pools are closed, he's put the program via an app. So that Good Boost app is available to launch now, and we did a blog about that. And we've also featured walking football in Inspire magazine. As Jenny mentioned earlier, we have a lovely case study of Roger there. So in the winter edition, there is a walking football feature. And we'll continue to look at other apps and signposting opportunities as we go through the Let's Move journey. On the next slide, we're also innovating and we're adding in physical activity information into our chatbot on our website. So this will pop up when you visit the Versus Arthritis website. During the pandemic, we launched a COVA version of that chatbot, and we've weaved in "We Are Undefeatable" messages into that, and the Let's Move journey is available. So you can ask COVA anything, and it will hopefully be able to answer you any question you have. We also have a young person's app, an activity tracker, which is logging people's activity levels. And recently we received additional funding from Sport England through their Tackling Inequalities Fund to host on behalf of the Richmond Group of Charities. So we're enhancing our reach to more diverse communities, and I know Active Partnerships are hosting this fund as well. We're linking very closely to Sport England's Innovation Fund and working very closely with them and the Richmond Group of Charities. We also have our own innovation pot. So if a healthcare professional or researcher has a really brilliant, innovative idea, we have opportunities to explore funding those innovative opportunities. And we're looking at developing more bite-sized modules and CPD opportunities linked to what the work of the MSK champions. On the next slide, I think we're almost there. So yeah, so just to summarize the phases. So phase one has been all about responding to the urgent needs of the pandemic. I spoke about the top tips, the blogs, the web information, the expert Q&As, the undefeatable assets. Phase two was the email journey, building the peer support. We're commissioning a national evaluation. Phase three in January is going to be more bespoke content. We're also looking at gamification. We're looking at other channels, including podcasts and Alexa Home. And we're looking to weave the digital offer into our support group offer. So when our groups are back in action in April, fingers crossed they will be, springtime, we want to film the groups in action. We want to share the group's case studies, and we want to build and enhance the group's menu of opportunities, linking with new stakeholders, forming new partnerships, not just with national governing bodies, but locally and nationally across key stakeholders. So that's our Let's Move programme in a nutshell. Those are the three phases. And you'll be pleased to know that that is the end of our presentation. So we now have some time for Q&As. So does anyone have any Q&As for myself, Chris or Jenny, or has any come through the chat, Andrew?
Nothing on the chat at the moment. I think it's safe to say, isn't it, that there's a phenomenal amount of work that you guys have done over the last few years. It's incredibly worthwhile session from my own point of view, and I'm sure that everyone that has dialed in today has got a lot of really useful information to take back to their day jobs, really, to maybe hopefully understand how they could potentially partner with you guys moving forward. So thank you very much from my point of view initially for your time and sharing all that really useful information today. Does anybody have any questions either through the chat function, or by all means, please do unmute your mics. Silence across the board. I can only say from that point of view then that you've answered every single question that people turning up today have wanted to get an answer to. So I suppose that's a credit to everybody that was involved. So presumably the guys that spoke today, are you happy to answer questions offline if anything does filter through, if people want to contact you maybe more personally? I know Jenny shared your email. Rhian, I think you got some contact details as well, haven't we, if you're happy to share those?
Yeah, absolutely. And we really encourage you all to promote our online offer. It's very easy to access on the website, but if you have any questions or any opportunities to link into, please do feed that through to us. And yeah, please keep sharing our resources. They're there for you to use. Yeah, we had a couple of comments, more so than questions. Darren just said, thank God it was recorded, because there's so much information and initiatives, ideas to go away with, which is brilliant. I think a lot of people kind of need to digest things, don't they? Because there's, even from my point of view, I can see, so many different kind of things popping up in my mind of how we could potentially partner up. Then there was just a comment from Yvonne just saying thank you very much for a very informative session. Brilliant. So I guess the key message to tell everyone is to keep moving, isn't it, Chris?
Absolutely. Everyone needs to move a little bit more than you're currently doing.
Yes, and use our resources to help you.
Indeed, absolutely. So I suppose all that's left for me to do is just to thank our speakers and participants for joining in today. A copy of the recording, a copy of the session in terms of the recording will be available on the LIS website in due course, along with the presentation slides. Just a quick reminder from me to complete the evaluation form, which can be found by clicking on that link there. The recording will now be stopped.